Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by our friends at Bet365. My name is Michael Lieboff. I am your host for today's episode, which will cover the 16 upcoming games in the Champions League on Tuesday and Wednesday. And in a moment, I'll also introduce you to my friends and co-hosts, BJ Cunningham and Anthony DeBundo. But before we get those two gentlemen in to break down what should be an interesting slate of matches in the Champions League, a reminder that Wondergoal is presented to you by Bet365, and Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. It believes every sport should be epic, from every tournament to every game, to every point, to every play, from the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. See for yourself when you sign up today with code ACTION, and you'll get $365 in bonus bets when you bet just $1. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older, and you must be present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, or Virginia. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, New Jersey, Ohio, and Virginia, and 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions apply. BJ, Anthony, let's get to it. 16 games to go over. Whole lot of ramifications. I would say that the one we're going to lead off with is maybe the headliner for both days. You can maybe make an argument that a game on Wednesday that will lead off with for those 8 matches is the headliner. But PSG and Newcastle, the group of death, still up for grabs. PSG hosting the Magpies after Newcastle came back into form with a win over Chelsea over the weekend. PSG still, though, odds on -163 at home. The Magpies traveling at +425, and the draw here is +300. BJ, you and I look to be on the same side here. I think Newcastle is worth a shot. Injury issues aside, like they look really, really good in that second half, especially against Chelsea. There, I guess you can be concerned that the squad's just going to be stretched thin, now turning around and playing in a couple of days later. But +425 on Newcastle is nothing to sniff or nothing to thumb your nose at, I don't think.
Yeah, so this is the famous 4-1 win from Newcastle. They destroyed PSG at St. James Park because something that we talked about going into it was PSG with Luis Enrique, they're going to build out of the back. They're not going to send the ball long. They're not going to play direct. And Newcastle destroyed them with their physicality and their high pressing. Now, in the end, the pass per defensive action and the high pressing numbers really weren't indicative of essentially what happened, but Newcastle was very, very good in their mid block. Again, a lot of great transition opportunities going forward. Now, the question is can they repeat that on the road in Paris? I think they can, given the current situation of personnel available. The lineup they played against Chelsea is not that far off from the usual lineup we see week in and week out from Newcastle. What was so great about that match against Chelsea is because of the international break and because they had all their personnel available, they started pressing again from their 4-3-3 instead of a 4-5-1 more passive mid-block type. And that's how they really destroyed Chelsea and caused a lot of problems. Now, they can do that again. And from a price standpoint, this is too high on PSG, quite frankly. I know they've been in great form in Ligue 1. I know that Kylian Mbappe can wreck this game on the left side of the pitch. But given the way that Newcastle beat up Chelsea, what they've done to PSG in the first meeting, I know it's Newcastle on the road, which is a much different animal than Newcastle at home. But, I mean, this team is still in the top 4 in the Premier League in expected goal differential. Like, there still should be priced towards a team like Liverpool and Arsenal. They should not be priced essentially this far down against PSG. So I do like Newcastle +1. Best price you can find in that is -122 right now. Again, what they did is definitely repeatable here on the road because Luis Enrique and PSG are not going to change. They are going to build out of the back, and Newcastle can beat them up once again. So Newcastle +1, -122 for me.
Yeah, and you touched on it. The numbers for PSG right now they're sparkling, right? Like they've won 6 on the spin in Ligue 1, and if you go back in over the last month and a half-ish, they've scored at least 3 goals in all but one match, and that's a span of 8 matches. The only one that they didn't score 3 was the 2-1 loss to Milan, which threw this entire group into chaos, right? Like the 2-1 loss for PSG. Here's how this group sets up, the group of death. It looked like it wasn't going to live up to its billing through the first 3 matches, but all of a sudden now every team is more than alive. Newcastle's at the foot with 4 points. Milan is in third place with 5. PSG at 6 points, and then Dortmund, as we all expected, are in first place. They've scored 3 goals in the competition. 3 goals scored, 2 goals allowed. Dortmund still at the top of the table with 7 points. Any team could end up in any situation in the group of death, which that's you can't really say that about any other group in this during this group stages, which has been lacking drama outside of a select few groups. And I do wonder actually if the onus for Newcastle, they need to win. I think PSG is probably going to be a little more conservative even at home in the nitty gritty of the match if it's still in the balance, because they could essentially they could feel confident about their spot. You'd want them to win. They got to go to Dortmund to finish the group stage, but I think the fact that Newcastle has to be a little more aggressive actually helps them, because what has been our criticism about them all season, Anthony, is like just take more chances. Sometimes they're too pragmatic. They try to shut things down way too early, and if they could be a little bit more front-footed, this could be a dangerous team that could basically play with anybody in Europe.
Well, that's the big question, right? Because it hasn't translated into Europe. If you just pull up the raw XG difference, they are the worst team in this group so far. And I think coming into the group, we all would have agreed they're probably second best on paper. And the betting markets had them as the second favorite. So, it's a tiny sample. It's 4 matches. One of those matches, the one against Dortmund 2 weeks ago, they had a very shorthanded team with basically no attackers. So how much do you read into that? I personally think that I would lean with you guys here. The biggest thing about the road match, or the home match again, was that Mbappe got so isolated. I mean, he was barely a factor for large stretches of that match because PSG just never got the ball progressed far enough to consistently get the ball to him as the outlet, and they were not going long. Like when we watch France play, like it's so many long balls to Mbappe as just like forget the midfield. We're going to bypass that. That's not how Enrique is going to set them up. So it certainly makes them vulnerable. I am leaning Newcastle. I want to dig a little bit more into the Milan match for Newcastle, because that's the one that really puzzles me. When they went to Milan and got a 0-0 draw, but got completely smoked and really should have lost. Because when you have 2 consecutive terrible away performances in Europe, it does raise a red flag. I don't know that we're probably overreacting to it, but it is notable and something I want to dig more into. And I will have a preview for this match coming up in the Action Network app, El Gasico round 2. So stay tuned to the app, and I'll have a bet as well. But I have to build the courage to get to +1 here. I do show a little bit of value on Newcastle, so it's clearly the side for me. I just don't know if I'm going to fire.
The other Group F matches, Milan and Dortmund. This one in Italy. Milan is +100 at home. Dortmund traveling at +260, and the draw also at +260. And I think that the most telling thing about Dortmund is in your mind when you think about Dortmund, especially in Europe, it's this swashbuckling, exciting team, a lot of young talent. Everyone's like, for people like me or I guess Anthony and right now with Tottenham not in the Champions League, I feel like a lot of just general soccer fans default to Dortmund as the team they want to root for, because they're not one of the the prestige clubs. They're not PSG, and it ends up being like a hobby team for everybody. That's just not what's happened with this team. Like that, to a neutral, this has been a team that's just turning games into rock fights, and it's been effective for them because they've not been very good in the Bundesliga this season, and somehow they're in the pole position in the group of death here in the Champions League. And I kind of want to bet them here because I don't think Milan really frightens me, and not the type of team that I think profiles very well as a favorite, even at home, given their an offense that I think could sputter at times, I guess is the best way to put it. But I don't know. I think the number maybe would need to be a little bit higher for me on Dortmund, but it would absolutely be the German side or pass for me, Anthony.
Yeah, I mean, no Leao is a huge issue, and neither him nor Giroud played against Fiorentina in a game that ended it was just a terrible soccer match. Ended 1-0 to Milan. Really didn't have much going on in the match, and you just kind of see the difference when he's not out there, just how little this attack creates. Now, they kind of had to go for it, right? At home against PSG, even in that match, which they won, they were out-created on expected goals. The early set pieces played a role in that. I really don't know what to do with either of these teams. I'm struggling with it from a perspective of, like, Dortmund's defense is so bad, and it was on display. I mean, they went down 2-0 to Gladbach and could have easily conceded 3 or 4. They got destroyed at Stuttgart. Like, this team has not been defending in the Bundesliga. And then they come to Europe, and they're still not really defending. Like, they got away with it against PSG because PSG had a really poor match. But, like, PSG still put up over 2 XG. Milan got to 1.5 against them, even though they didn't score. They got to play Newcastle when Newcastle was really shorthanded, right? So I think Dortmund has kind of benefited from that. Now, the question is, what does Milan do from an approach perspective here? Dortmund is atop the group. A point would be great for them. Milan has to go to Newcastle on the final day. So I think this is kind of an all-in spot for Milan where they have to take more chances. But when Milan does have to expand more, their defense doesn't hold up. Their defense is good when they're able to be very passive and very defensive and not commit numbers forward. But when the Leao isn't there, it actually hurts their defense because they have to commit more numbers forward, and then they go and give up a bunch of chances as a result of that. So I think there's some real questions about this total, and I think it's probably a touch low. But then again, betting Milan overs with Leao out is a scary proposition. So I lean to the over here. I do not show value on it, but again, like, I think that if anything, Milan has to go for this. Dortmund's happy to go back and forth with them, and the Dortmund defense continues to just leak goals left and right. So I think there are goals in this game.
And that's what happened in the first match against PSG, right? Because they only had 1 point. They hadn't scored yet in the Champions League. And then they decided to man-mark press PSG, and they just got Mbappe repeatedly over and over again. And yes, they went for it again against PSG. And like Anthony said, it was pretty close on expected goals, and they won the match. But I'm with Anthony. I really want to bet an over here, but I cannot do it without Leao right now. So, that just over or nothing for me. If Leao plays, I'll probably be on the over.
Yeah, it looks like he's still out.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, probably going to pass on this one.
Dortmund still they've been playing Bino Gittins more. He was really good. Like, the Dortmund is still a good attacking side. They figured out, some of their ball progression issues. On the road, like, they have not been good in Champions League defensively on the road either. So, I mean, they haven't been good anywhere. But 2.5 minus 115 is going to stare at me for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I've lost on the Milan under both matches against PSG, and now if I come back on an over and say, like, they have to go for this, they're probably going to shut it down. But this Dortmund totals at 2.5 against competent teams just seem crazy to me right now.
Yeah, and you try not to read too much into the situational spots at all, but Dortmund could, like you said, they could just try to shut it down. I mean, it's against their DNA, right? I know it's like against their DNA, but but that's the point I'm trying to make, is like they could come out with a conservative approach and it could just be a mess, an absolute mess. So, yeah.
I think Milan takes more risks here. I think they have to. I mean, if they don't,
they have.
If they don't win this match, they're going to need a result the final day, and going to Newcastle. They're going to be catching.
That match could be incredible given the situation that potentially.
The final day in this group has a baton. I mean, I'm rooting as a neutral. I'm rooting for PSG to get a win, and I guess I can't root for Newcastle and PSG to get a win. So maybe both matches draw, and then it all comes.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. If you're rooting for chaos, it's draw. because that just keeps everything status quo going into the final day.
And then we'd have Newcastle at home with a chance to flip it on Milan.
Yep, and the PSG
right?
at Dortmund.
PSG Dortmund playing out like a really cagey match where like they could both in theory go through.
Yeah,
if they like drew.
The disgrace of Guillon. I have a ticket from that game from the World Cup in 1982 in Spain.
It's very Darren Ravel of you.
Yeah, I won't say who got me. Who got me thinking about buying that ticket when I finally saw it on eBay. Anyways, enough about the disgrace of Guillon. On to Feyenoord and Atleti, our boys, Anthony's boys. Anthony finally's come around on Diego Simeone and Los Colchoneros. It's taken
Best
forever.
Expected goal difference in Spain right now.
They're unbelievable.
The defense
is so good
right now.
They are.
Go pull it up.
You could put them in the NBA. I think they make the playoffs.
Yeah. You can put them in the Big Ten West, and they'll for sure.
You guys, you love the Nord. This game's a pick'em. It's plus 162, like negligible favorites for the Dutch side at home. The Fighting Simeone's traveling at plus 160 in the draws, plus 250. So, Anthony is our resident Atletico Madrid fan. Why don't you think this number is actionable on Feyenoord?
Well, I do think Atletico's a better team. So, like, for me to bet the worst team at a pick'em, even though they're at home, like it does take some courage. And so I don't think the number's great. Like, I think the market has kind of caught on to Nord. Like, we got a couple really good Nord spots early in this group. They pounced and trounced Lazio at home, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, now they're a pick'em at Lazio. That's probably right. I still bet it anyway because I hate Lazio so much. I love Feyenoord. This one is a little tougher for me with Feyenoord at home. They are still defensively flawed. And, if you go back and look at like what happened in the first match, Feyenoord completely controlled all of the midfield exchanges. They had way more attacking penalty area touches. They controlled the flow of the match, but there were just like one or two defensive errors where Atleti still has really high quality attackers, Morata and Griezmann, that they can just pounce on those, take their chances, and laugh as they win this match. But overall, like, you definitely won't be getting me betting Madrid here. If you look at the numbers from that first match, it was 2.4 expected goals, 2.8. There was an own goal in there that they flipped for Feyenoord. But the stat that I like here, attacking penalty area touches, 31 for Feyenoord, 11 for Atleti, and Feyenoord did not have their best player in that match in Santi Jimenez. So this is like only Feyenoord, and I will probably end up betting them just because I want to ride with my boys. They have continued to just absolutely be a truck in the Eredivisie from an underlying perspective. So, for me, I'm really tempted to just back them again, because I just want to keep betting them, and it's fun. Even the loss against Lazio, like one breakaway chance, Feyenoord created most of the other chances. They had a good opportunity late to equalize. And from an attacking penalty area touches perspective, Feyenoord once again had more of them. So they were able to progress the ball pretty comfortably in Lazio's penalty area and in Atleti's penalty area. They've been taking apart these big 5 league teams.
Yeah, it's really hard to jump in front of this team right now, though.
Yeah,
who would want to jump in front of a team? They've lost twice all season. Atleti, once to Las Palmas, who of course are quickly becoming one of the best teams in all of Europe. But yeah, I've got nothing here. I'm just my heart. You know where my heart will be, BJ.
Yeah, so the Atletico defense has really been improving, though. I know they haven't played difficult competition, but we're going on 7 straight matches of allowing under 1 expected goal. Essentially, since that Feyenoord match, Sociedad is the only team that's created over 1 expected goal against them. The defense has really, really improved for Atletico. And they destroyed Celtic because of a red card. Celtic obviously didn't get a expected goal in the match because of the early red card. But like Anthony mentioned, the attacking players for Atletico right now are just in crazy good form that even though I do like Feyenoord, I'm just, we all have the 2 advance tickets. So honestly, I think I'm just going to ride that into the final day against Celtic for Feyenoord. So it's an easy pass for me, quite frankly.
All right, let's talk about Celtic. They're plus 500 underdogs traveling to Lazio.
Let's not.
Minus 188 on the Italian side.
I hate this so much.
The market came down, actually.
I hate this so much.
It's taken some Celtic money, and I agree with it, but I'm not betting it.
Why not?
No, well, BJ can go more into the injury situation, but the red card situation from the suspension from last match, the idea that they're drawing completely dead in this group now, there's not really anything to play for.
Yeah. They get some help from Simeone and a win here. They can still get into the Europa League.
Yeah, but when Feyenoord wins, they're dead.
Yeah. If.
I mean, their chance against Lazio was at Celtic Park, and they couldn't do it. So
they should have won that match.
They should have won it, but now we got No Rio Hatate, who's essentially their best midfielder. Maeda, starting left winger, out. Starting right winger, Abada, is also out. So it's pretty barren in terms of their attack. And I know I hate Lazio, and I really want to bet against them here. And I think that the price is a little too inflated. But 3 of your best players being out for this match is really concerning. So I'm passing. Whatever. Just let Sarri and Lazio get into the round of 16, and we can pummel them there.
Right. Let's change to.
Or the Europa group. Excuse me. We don't want them. We don't want them in the round of 16.
No, we won't see them there.
They might get there though.
Yeah, we don't want. Excuse me. We don't want them there. We want them in the Europa League so we can bet some other team against them.
On to Group G, which is could go down as the most boring group in Champions League history. It projected like that. It's played out like that. City's atop. They're through. Perfect record, 4 wins and no draws or losses, 12 goals scored, 3 against. It's just how it goes. Leipzig also through, 3 wins, no draws, and a loss. And these 2 teams, wouldn't you know, are meeting at the Etihad with basically 0 stakes. You could argue that Leipzig could top the group, but they're not going to catch City. In goal difference.
If they won this by 2 goals, I think 3 goals, they have to win by 3 at the Etihad to flip the head-to-head.
Right.
So get your -2.5 alts in.
Yeah. Or exact scores: 3-0s, 4-1s, 5-2s. Get them in.
Assuming Red Star doesn't just throw things.
Yeah, I don't think any. Why would you play anybody in this game? Either team. Why would either team play anybody in this game?
I mean, they will because it's they obviously want to win.
Do.
But it's. I mean, I like the under. You can get 3.5 at under -150, which I think is.
I like the draw. Same reason.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, City against Liverpool, they went and tried to control the match. They didn't play it super aggressively, and there's a couple things that I think Pep will kind of go back to doing and trying to get more game control. Is that first off, John Stones was on the bench, which is very crucial for City in their build-up because they like to invert him into the center part of the pitch, and he's so good at that role. But Akanji played that role really, really well against Liverpool. So now Pep has 2 options of game control in the middle of the pitch. The other thing is, I think you'll see Jack Grealish start this match because Pep knows that Leipzig is a team that can hurt you on the counter like very, very quickly. That's how they scored their only goal against City in the previous one. Mm-hmm. So Grealish, as opposed to Doku, is much better at ball retention, much better at keeping the ball, whereas Doku just gets the ball and just flies right at you, which he can cause so many problems and he wrecks games, but he also loses the ball quite a bit, which causes teams to go in transition. So I think you'll see a very measured approach here from City, trying to control this match, trying to play through the middle of the pitch. But I think Leipzig offensively is kind of stuck here because they want to play a 4-2-2-2 and play through the center of the pitch, and City is not going to allow them to do that. So unless they get like they did with Openda for the only goal in the previous meeting, That's all they got, though. So and if they don't get that in this meeting, I don't really see how they're going to score. So under 3.5, best price you can find is -145 right now. I only projected 2.3, and I thought I was a little low, and then I kind of went and looked into it a little more. Leipzig offensively has been just so overperforming in the Bundesliga. I mean, they're over 10 goals over there, what they should be expected to score. So, yeah, I think you'll see City control this match. Leipzig's going to struggle to score here, so under 3.5, -145.
I'm just worried City could run away with this. Can't believe I'm saying that because I bet Leipzig the last 3 meetings in this series and lost 2 of them. But like the first match was not competitive at all.
No.
I had a Leipzig ticket. They took a ton of money, closed +0.5 when they were open +1. It was the wrong side. And I lost 3-1 and, of course, 2 late goals. But like from a matchup perspective, this Leipzig team was significantly less competitive than last year's team. And I think a lot of it had to do with just Gvardiol. His absence, I thought, played a huge role here. And in Kuku. Yeah. And when we look at like the difference this year, we talked about like Leipzig being just as good and replacing the talent with other talent that could fit well. It hasn't quite come off for their attacking numbers. I mean, they're way down. And we said earlier this year, and I think I said this on the Thursday show, like I gave them a pass because I want to stick to my priors early in the season and say, hey, like, they're running really hot and that's affected some of their game state numbers for the season now though. Like they're barely above average in the Bundesliga. They had a really dominant game against Cologne where they won 6-0 at home. Other than that, they have been a pretty average German team this year. And they have, kind of been a little shaky, like conceding over 1 XG both matches to Red Star is a little concerning. So I just kind of think City can do whatever they want here, and trying to predict what they might try to do is a bold one. Now, if this got to 3.5, like -120, I would definitely join in on the under.
Yeah, I think there's just a good chance that this is just an absolute dud. So I don't really hate the.
Yeah, Tottenham coming next.
Yeah, exactly. It's Liverpool, then this dead rubber, and then Tottenham on Sunday for City. So that's enough about that game, honestly. Barcelona and Porto now. This group got turned on its head by our friends in Shaktar with the upset against Barcelona. So nobody's through yet. I think that you can feel pretty confident that it's going to be these 2 teams playing, but we will see. Barcelona is -200, hosting Porto, +550. The draw is +350. As the table stands right now, Barca at the top on goal differential, but they're tied with Porto on points. They actually both have the same goal differential, but Barcelona's got the head-to-head. I don't know. I don't want to say you've been skeptical. Maybe is it fair to say you've been a little skeptical of Barcelona, Anthony? Because the number, I feel like the number on Porto probably is not there yet. An interesting situation with the draw because you'd expect Porto would just want to get 1 point from the Camp Nou and put themselves in a great spot to go through, but and maybe that turns this game into a little bit of a rock fight and put some value on the under or a draw, but I don't really I don't see any reason to lay it with Barcelona is what I'm saying, Anthony.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's some value on the under here because we saw in the first leg that there was not a whole lot happening. Porto got kind of screwed. There was a couple offside moments there where they, I thought, got hosed out of a pen and then got hosed out of a goal with some controversial decisions. I think what we're seeing here is that maybe, I don't want to say this because I've been wrong before writing this guy off, but Lewandowski's numbers are down this year. And he's at like 0.5 non-penalty XG per 90 in La Liga, which like is pretty good, but like it's not normal Lewandowski. And thus like the Barca attack, like the wingers just aren't that good. Like keep in mind what this team lost in in Dembele, like how good he was last year for them, and the fact that he's not there anymore, the fact they lose Fati, like all the depth pieces have kind of dropped off this team. And I like Ilkay Gundogan, but like he was more of a score big goals guy than like consistently put up elite numbers guy from a adding to the attack perspective. So, he's been okay this year for them, but he's not getting a ton of shots. Like his last 5 matches, he's taken 1 shot. So there just isn't an overwhelming athleticism advantage that they have over people. It's a lot of stale possession. It's a lot of like, okay, we're going to get it to like Rafinha and hope he does something. We're going to cross it in a lot to Lewandowski. And they're just not as dynamic as I thought they might be. And the difference is that like the market is pricing them as this elite team. And I still think they're the best team in Spain because like Real Madrid's defense is so bad. But is this attack really good at breaking down low blocks? Like I'd argue they really haven't been. I mean, they had less than 1 XG at Vallecano. They were pretty average against Alaves. They've had a lot of games where they've just kind of dragged their way through it and then scored late, like Sociedad. I didn't think they were great against Bilbao in that win. They had that late comeback against Vigo after they were down most of the match. They've had a lot of comebacks. So if Porto comes out and just sits there and plays for the point, a point that would be vital for them because it keeps them ahead of Shaktar. Like I kind of think this game plays out as like a 1-0 or 2-0 kind of Barca win, where like Porto, their attack has not been great in this tournament at all. But it will be interesting to see if they can replicate it. Like they can get a bunch of breakaway chances, but their underlying numbers in attack are pretty average. So I lean to the under here. I want the 3. BJ's taking on the under anyway. I think it's high.
Yeah. Here's the thing with Barcelona, and they have been so bad in transition defense this year. They're dead last in final third of box entry conversion rate allowed. And essentially what happens is when you try to overload the last line of defense, that's all great and wonderful. But when you don't have good transition defenders to defend teams that can get at you like that, it's a problem. And Porto, I know they only put up 0.7 XG, but they were continually wrecking Barcelona in transition. Like Koundé basically saved one from going in the back of the net. It was not a good performance from Barcelona. But what I will say now, which I think is huge for Barcelona, is Frenkie de Jong is finally healthy and back into the lineup. He is somebody who can control the pace and control the tempo of a match better than most midfielders in the entire world. So him being in the team, it makes Barcelona much, much better in build-up play and is, quite frankly, they're less susceptible to those transition type attacks when they're playing Gundogan, Gavi, and Romeo trying to build up through that.
Yeah.
So it's a decent situation here for Barcelona. Now, I don't think they're going to go and suddenly just start breaking down Porto's low block. It's very interesting though, Mike, because these two teams are tied with the same goal differential in this group. So things could get wonky on the final day. We'll see.
If Porto wins, though.
If Porto wins, you got to win. Excuse me. But Porto had a pretty bad showing right before the international break, giving up over 2 expected goals to Vitória in Portugal. But again, nobody's created. Barcelona is the only team that's created over 1 expected goal against them in this group. So the defense is still there. They're going to play the 4-4-2 passive low block. So I do like under 2.5 goals at plus 120. One thing to look out for, Verstegen is questionable for this match. From everything that I've read, it looks like that they were just saving him. Like they didn't play him against Vallecano, and it looks like they were saving him for this match, which would obviously be massive because the drop-off between him and the backup keeper is pretty big. So, yeah, I do like under 2.5 goals at plus 120. I would love 3. I don't know if we're getting there, but I think De Jong being in the team is huge for Barcelona in slowing down the tempo of this match. And I think like Anthony said, you're just going to see a lot of stale possession in this one.
Okay, let's wrap up Tuesday with a quick look at Shaktar and Antwerp. Shaktar is nominally still alive in this group. They are minus 106 hosting Antwerp plus 280, and the draw is plus 260. And then Young Boys and Red Star Belgrade with Young Boys as a plus 105 favorite and Belgrade traveling at plus 230. That's a Europa League decider, which is a big deal for those two teams. Anything on either of these two matches, BJ?
Red Star. Red Star, Red Star, Red Star. This is a crazy line. I don't get this at all. The previous match was pretty chaotic, very back and forth. 2.6 expected goals created between the two, or both teams created 2.6 expected goals. But Red Star had 2 goals called out due to offsides. One was by a freaking toenail. And for whatever reason, Young Boys was playing an incredibly high line against them. And Red Star is a team that can hit you quickly in transition. They showed that against City. They showed that against Leipzig, putting up over 1 expected goal in both of those matches as well. And from a mathematical perspective, nobody is overperforming more in Europe than Young Boys right now. They have a plus 1.22 actual goal differential in the Swiss Super League, expected goal differential of plus 0.06. It is insane how much they're overperforming. Red Star continually putting up great expected goals numbers in Serbia, averaging over 2 expected goals per 90. So I don't get this one. I mean, these two countries, from a UEFA coefficients perspective, are pretty even. So if I'm getting a team that is essentially, by underlying numbers, performing over a goal better than the other, I have to take them plus a half at minus 130. And I'm going to be on the money line as well because they were the better team in the first leg. I mean, Young Boys had a penalty in there, and it was basically just one transition opportunity that they scored on. They had a couple other chances late when they were already up 2-1, but Red Star was by far the better team. So I like them plus a half at minus 130 and then also on the money line.
All right, and now we'll go on to Wednesday, which looks like a much more betting-friendly slate. But before we do that, a word from our friends at Caldera Lab. The holiday season is right around the corner, and things are about to get busy. Don't let that stop you from sticking to your habits and being the best version of yourself. That's where our friends at Caldera Lab come in. 1 minute in the morning and 1 minute at night is all you need for clearer skin. These guys are the best in the skincare game, and with an easy routine, will keep your face looking fresh no matter your schedule and no matter how many horrible soccer teams you bet on. Thank you to Everton this weekend. They're the Caldera Lab team of the weekend. It's just 3 steps every morning. You can start it with the clean slate, which is a face wash to start and end your day. The base layer, which is a daily moisturizer to hydrate your skin. And number 3, the good, which is an eye serum you can put on at night to help your skin look tighter and smoother. So join the 100,000 men who trust Caldera Lab to show your best self this holiday season. And just for our listeners, we have an exclusive deal. Use the code GOAL at calderalab.com for 20% off right now. That's 20% off with the code GOAL at calderalab.com. Make an unforgettable first impression with Caldera Lab. Wednesday. You know what that means? We're going to Turkey, boys. And we're taking Manchester United with us. We'll talk more about that Everton match on the Thursday morning episode.
3 different people sent me the XG philosophy tweet at halftime, which was like Everton 0, 1.15 XG, Man United 1, 0.04 XG. And I'm like, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And good teams finish better.
The motivational spot of the year.
And they were dead in 4 minutes because Garnacho scored a golazo. It was fun. But you know what? This is, if you follow us in the app, BJ and I bet this like weeks ago because for some odd reason, United opened even money. That is no longer the line. They are now an underdog. I don't really have a ton to say about this match that I haven't already said about Galatasaray and Man United on every episode of this show.
Right.
Every time we do the Champions League pod. You know where my opinion is. For the sake of brevity, welcome to hell, Man United. Marcus Rashford is suspended.
Yep.
Højlund is doubtful. So, that's a problem. But it's not a problem if Garnacho does another bike again. So keep that in mind for your betting habits. When the team scores a bike against you, you're probably not going to win. But, yeah, Gala's been better in this group. They have better underlying numbers. They're healthier, and they're at home. And it's a hell of a place to play. So, yeah.
Bayern found that.
I still think they're fine as a pick'em. I wouldn't lay juice, but as a pick'em, I like them.
I don't think that there's really much more we need to add. We've talked about it's weird. We've kind of talked about this match, even though we were talking about other matches, whether it was Bayern versus Galatasaray or when they played Copenhagen. It was like we were just basically talking about their two matches against Man United.
Both teams to score first half, maybe. I actually have.
Yeah, well, I mean the game's gonna get nuts. I think that you can feel pretty confident that this one just should go in a million different directions.
That's why I like over 3 goals, even money. I think it's
Rashford.
Even without Rashford. I mean, this match devolved into complete chaos right away at Old Trafford, and I don't really see a scenario of how it's not going to do that once again, because United continually struggles defending long balls. It's been a problem, and Galatasaray was just able to repeatedly throw one long ball out to the wide side of the pitch and just completely dice through whatever defensive pressing structure that United had. United has no game control because they have no midfielders right now. So it's going to create a very back and forth transitional open match. And yes, even without Rashford, even without Højlund, I do think that Martial and Garnacho can provide enough offensive threat to get out of Galatasaray defense that has still been really bad. I know we love them, but their defense has been terrible. They've allowed over 2 expected goals to Bayern in both meetings, and over 2 expected goals to United in the previous meeting as well. So over 3 at even money for me, I think it's far too short.
Yeah, I think that it's a fun game to. First of all, I like our boys Galatasaray. I think it's also a fun game to live bet. I think that the over is just always going to be in play. And I should also set up just the way that this group is. It's just so perfectly set up for disappointment for either us or Manchester United. That Bayern's run away with it. They're 4-0-0 with 12 points, so they don't matter to us. Then Copenhagen, fresh off of their ridiculous win against United, are on 4 points, so they're technically in second, but they're tied with Galatasaray, and then United at 3. So any of these 3 teams could easily get through. And it's a must win for United. Like
it is.
They're the team that has to deal with Bayern at the in the final match day, and I know it's a dead rubber for Bayern because they're through, but
they also have this really long win streak though going on that I don't think they want to end, Michael. And that's the problem. And if they have an opportunity to knock out United completely in this competition, they're going to do it
at Old Trafford.
Oh yeah, they'll do it. You don't think Harry Kane will be motivated to do it?
Yeah, right. So it's all right. So we know where we're going that one.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Bayern. I'm tempted by Copenhagen here.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
The number implies rotation. I mean, Bayern laid 2 to Copenhagen on the road. And, they played bad. And, you have to downgrade them. And we've obviously upgraded Copenhagen considerably since then. But, is it enough that now we're, 2 is too much at home? I don't know who's playing for Bayern. If Kane sits, then, yeah, I love to.
Yeah.
Is Kane going to sit?
Why would he play? These are the
because
things
he's Harry Kane. He never.
I know. I get that, but it's like the theory of the irrational actor. I'm trying to get into in my mind. I think it's asinine to play anybody in this game.
Never sat the dead rubbers for Spurs.
I know why.
He's a professional athlete who wants to pad his stats.
Bayern doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
They don't rotate. Tuchel doesn't rotate either.
I know. It's nuts.
They got Union Berlin on the weekend. They're not going to rotate. What's the point?
They may rotate the wingers, but it's we're not going to play Sane and Gnabry. We're going to play Coman and Musiala. Yeah. And I'm wait a minute.
Yeah.
Who's better? Are we sure? We're going to play them a half. I can't get to this number. I'm tempted to lay it. If Bayern puts out a good team, I'll lay it. Maybe look live and see, watch the first 10 minutes, see how much they seem to care.
Well, the question is because Copenhagen was really good in their defensive block against Bayern in the previous one, but that was at Copenhagen, and is that repeatable in this one? Given what I saw in the first 40 minutes against Manchester United, I do not think it is at all.
Not at all.
United destroyed them. So, I'm just passing.
Whatever. I just feel like we watched Copenhagen have a couple good matches, and we were like, yes, we're all in now, and they're still not great, and they still would have lost. We were on the wrong side in the United match, 100%.
Yeah,
and we got lucky that they got the red card and then imploded. But this defense is still pretty bad. I think I'm going to wait and then look live, and then at 15 minutes in, if it's 0-0, but Bayern seems to be up for it, lay the goal in a quarter or a goal and a half live. I don't know.
I think I'm going to play the Copenhagen money line, just sprinkle it, because I just don't.
Copenhagen is the only team to hold Bayern under 1 expected goal this season. Under 1.5. They've just
been good enough. I just think they've been good enough that.
Actually, that's not true, BJ.
Oh, Saarbrücken. Forgot.
Yeah,
my bad. I totally forgot.
It's just I guess maybe I'm just reading into too much that this game just means absolutely nothing to Bayern.
But yeah, what's the win streak at? Is it at 18 right now? Their last draw was against Atletico 4 years ago in the group stage. So
yeah.
No, didn't they tie 2021?
Against Atletico.
No, maybe they lost the XG but won the match. It was one of those. It was one of those games where I complained about a loss.
It was a
a
loss in what really matters.
Yeah. My friend and I used to bet XG and not actual goals. Those were the days.
And
we would use my projections to create an expected goal differential and then bet the XG accordingly in a single game against one another. It was a truly incredible betting experience.
Yes. Some life you're living. All right, Group C, Real Madrid, top of the table, like their friends Bayern Munich, 4-0-0, 12 points through. They are hosting Napoli, who can basically clinch it as well. This group is pretty boring as well. Madrid is minus 120, Napoli plus 320 on the road, and the draw is plus 275. Once again, I get that Real Madrid wants to top the group, and so you can squint and see some stakes for them at this game. They're at home, big club coming into town. I love Real Madrid. I love Carlo Ancelotti. I would love to meet somebody who's laying this price with them, considering the situation.
There will be people probably. Real at home only minus 120.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I want to hear them, and I want to say why, and they'll say, and what would their argument be? Real Madrid at home, only minus 120. That. That's, to me, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't I not bet Napoli here?
It was a similar situation last year. They were playing Leipzig on the road. That was on the road, but they went to Leipzig in a pretty flat spot. The group was kind of decided, and they were just bad. They came out and got pumped early, and then fought their way back into the match. I kind of think this is similar. Napoli's fully healthy, right? Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia played over the weekend, so that's huge. This Real Madrid team have been notorious slow starters. They don't defend anybody. Valencia was destroying them 2 weeks ago. I didn't catch any of the Cadiz match today. I haven't even looked at the box score yet. But I just love Napoli team total over first half here at plus 140. I think it's just short. I think at worst, the luck box Real Madrid attack, the good attack shows up and they score a couple of goals and they're competitive and they win this because Napoli maybe isn't quite as good defensively as we thought. But Napoli's scoring on this team. And I think they could do it often. So I like the boys from Naples first half team total. And I did take some plus a half, but the numbers come down a lot because of the Vinicius injury news. And Brahim Diaz also got hurt in warm-ups today. So I don't know if he'll be available. Not that he's a key player, but he does matter a little bit.
Can we talk about what happened with Napoli over the international break, though? Because they fired what's his name? Crap. I gotta start this over. Who's Rudy Garcia? That's it. Sorry. All right. 3, 2, 1. Can we talk about what happened with Napoli over the international break? Because they sacked Rudy Garcia and they brought in Walter Mazzari, which is like the Italian equivalent of Roy Hodgson. Like, he has historically throughout his career been a 3-5-2 low block transitional type coach, which is just not how Napoli plays at all. Now today or this weekend against Atalanta, they won 2-1 and it seemed like it was 4-3-3, typical formation, and everything seemed to be the same. And I didn't catch the match, so I'm interested to go back and watch the highlights or rewatch the match to see what happened. But things could change at Napoli pretty drastically from a tactical perspective that makes me a little bit worried about them going forward. We'll see. It could he could just say, we're going to continue on with what Spalletti and Rudy Garcia were trying to accomplish. But from a philosophy standpoint, it is a very, very different approach from Napoli. So we'll see if it continues. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to say the least.
And so like I said, Madrid at the top of the table at 12 points. Napoli pretty safely in second at 7. Braga and Union Berlin will likely be fighting it out for Europa League. Braga, if they want to squint really hard, can say, we still have a chance. We're still alive. But to stay alive, they'll have to beat Union. They're hosting as a plus 120. Favorite Union traveling plus 210, and the draw is plus 260. I've got absolutely nothing here. Anthony?
Also got absolutely nothing. I didn't bet the first leg. It was a crazy back and forth. Didn't really have any strong takeaways. Not betting this leg. Also think Union, do they punt here?
Yep.
Did they have Bayern this weekend?
I don't know. I think they'd want to get into the Europa League. BJ, anything here? Union and Braga?
No, I felt very lucky to win the first leg with Braga against Union Berlin, so I'm going to pass on this one.
Take your money and run.
I do show a little bit of value on Braga, but it's essentially going to be Braga's a ball circulation team going against what should be a 3-5-2 low blocker. I'm not really sure what Union's really going to play.
R.I.P. Urs Fischer, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No Urs Fischer. They tried to hire Raul. They tried to have Raul from Real Madrid, Castilla, and he said no. So I don't really know what they're going to do at this point. So I'd like to pass.
Okay. We can move on then to another group and another team that has kept BJ up at night. That's Sevilla. They are still alive, skin of their teeth here. They're plus 160 at home hosting PSV. Plus 162, so essentially pick them here, and the draw is plus 250. The way this group sets up, Arsenal the top, 9 points, PSV and Lens tied at 5, and then Sevilla propping it up on 2 points. Another one, I don't really have much of an interest, though. BJ, you are leaning towards the wayside.
Yeah, I like PSV draw no bet at plus 105. I don't really understand why they're underdogs on the road here against Sevilla. In case people haven't noticed, PSV is a perfect 13 for 13 in the Eredivisie. They are averaging close to 3 non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes. And what Peter Bosz has done with this team is he's made them a much, much better pressing team. Their pass per defensive action has gone down significantly. They have more high turnovers, and I get that they have not played very difficult competition, and they have a huge match against Feyenoord coming up on the weekend. But in the first meeting between Sevilla, they kind of destroyed them. They controlled the match. They tilted the field on them at 73%, won the expected goals battle 2.6 to 1.3. And I don't know what the market sees in the Sevilla team, and I don't know why they're not pricing them where they should be because of their underlying metrics. I mean, they are still a terrible defensive team in Spain. They are sitting 17th in non-penalty expected goals allowed. They can't defend in transition. They can't defend in set defense. And what I found surprising, though, is Sevilla is actually the number 1 field tilt team in Spain right now. I did not know that. And so what has happened quite a bit is that they've had to defend in transition, and they haven't been able to because other than Barcelona, they are the worst transition defense by final third to box entry conversion rate allowed. And what's happened when we come over here to the Champions League is that they've played teams like PSV and Arsenal who can control more possession. And suddenly, when they have to sit and set defense and they're not the ones tilting the field, they struggle. They took one shot against Arsenal and then came in stoppage time in their last match in the Champions League. So I do love, though, when I'm on Twitter and people talk about this Sevilla team and say that, like, I've heard European royalty get thrown around and say that they're so difficult to play in Europe. I'd like people to keep peddling that narrative around so we can get better prices against them, because they are terrible and they're going to continue to be terrible. And we're on manager, 5 in the last year and a half, and things still aren't going well because they haven't won a match outside of the Copa del Rey against a team in the 3rd division since September 23rd against Almeria, and they're at the bottom of the table. So PSV, pick them, plus 105. Should not be run underdogs at Sevilla.
All right, the other match in this group is Arsenal and Lens. BJ, your Gunners are laying -300 at home. Lens traveling at 7-1, and the draw is plus 450. It's square. Is Arsenal are we just going to be betting Arsenal unders until
blind unders at this point?
Until they get to 1.5, and even at that point, are you still going to be doing it?
I'm ashamed to say that I took Brentford Arsenal off the main screen and put the college game on because it was so painful to watch. And I relegated Arsenal to the laptop.
3 points, top of the table.
Luck box.
No, sir.
I did see Scott Willis tweets about XG charts after the game. He's a good Arsenal follow if you're a fan at Scott J. Willis. And I appreciate all the Arsenal fans going at him saying, well, how can you say we were lucky? We totally dominated the game except for the 3 really good chances we handed Brentford. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Go back to the first match, and this Lens team is still perfectly fine defensively. Their attacking numbers are pretty mediocre. They fluked a win against Arsenal in a game that probably should have been a 1-1. Both goals were just insanely efficient, quick strike transition from Lens, which they're not something they're particularly great at. And Arsenal totals at 3 against average attacking teams. It's just crazy. They're not scoring goals. Every attack is just circle the ball out wide, get it to Saka, and then hope he can do something. And he had 2 really great balls. The ball to who ended up getting the header? Trossard. That was varred off. That ball was great over the top. And then the ball to Havertz for the win. Great stuff. But they're getting nothing from Odegaard. And they're getting nothing from their midfield. And, Matt Treby, one of our editors, an Arsenal fan, was like, oh, baby, we're starting Trossard in the midfield. They're really going to turn up the attack today. And then they just didn't. I mean, it was just bad. They struggled their way to 1.2 XG against Brentford. Almost 3 of their 4 best chances were half-assed headers off of set pieces. So yeah, I just don't really think that their attack's that good. So yeah, blind unders, sure.
Yeah, 3's too high. Probably shouldn't be setting these totals at 3 with Arsenal.
What do you ask? If you're setting the total at 3, you're asking Arsenal to score at least twice.
Yeah, exactly. And
I don't.
To go over for it to get to 4 goals, they probably need 3.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they need 3. Right.
There was only 2 expected.
What team
goals.
wants to score 3 goals less than Arsenal right now? I feel like they'd be repulsed.
Lens didn't really do anything in the last match. There was a mistake in build-up, and they had a great finish, and then 1 transition attack, and that was pretty much it. So, Arsenal is just painfully controlling these matches, and guess what? It's working. Okay, they're winning these matches 1-0 and or 2-0, controlling it.
Trying to win a 38-match season with a bunch of 1-0s is.
But also putting up unreal defensive numbers also gets you to the point of winning the league, right? Because if you're a team like Tottenham right now who can't control a match to save their lives, then you're going to fall off the table.
I don't know if BJ gets to dunk on me about
match, you're going to fall off. It's painful to watch. I get it, but guess what? The defensive numbers are the best in Europe. So again, Lens could score here, but it's going to have to be off of half an expected goal because I don't see how Arsenal's going to give up that big scoring chance. So under 3, -106. Yeah, just keep betting these unders. And this kind of feels very similar to the City unders from before they had Haaland, when they just didn't have a true striker. And funny enough, Gabriel Jesus was their striker.
Well,
but
you know what Gabby Jesus said after the Brazil match last week?
I did hear what he said.
Scoring goals is not my strength. I love that. That is epic self-awareness.
I don't know if he said scoring goals. He just said goals are not his strengths. Maybe he doesn't like setting goals. Maybe someone like me who just, doesn't like setting goals in life. Maybe like scoring goals, but
you want to live in the present.
You know what the question was? Because I don't know what the question was.
Day by day. Take things one day at a time.
Lost in translation, even though
I could make a goal to win every bet, but I'm not going to do it.
Sociedad time. They're minus 188 hosting Salzburg. They're traveling at 5-1, and the draw is plus 333. I've loved this Sociedad team. I talked them up to potentially win the group before we got into the Champions League. I still love them, but I am always intrigued when we see Salzburg come up at these kind of prices, and especially when they're playing a team that maybe is a little inflated here. It has they're going to want to top the group ahead of Inter, but they're through. They can kick their feet up if they want. That it's mission accomplished for Sociedad. Meanwhile, Salzburg will want to get into Europa League ahead of the corpse that is Benfica.
Well, I don't. This is the kind of match that steams down because Sociedad will rotate here, I think.
Yeah.
And then we look at it and we're like, we should have taken the +1. And then Sociedad wins 2-0 anyway.
No, I think Salzburg's live here. Of all the big underdogs on the slate, so I'm talking plus 400 money line or higher. It's them by a mile.
The final day in this group is going to be much more fun than this round because you have essentially Salzburg and Benfica going up against each other for the Europa League, and then Inter and
maybe
Sociedad batting out for the first place, which could mean a lot.
Maybe
for the group, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, the Salzburg, they've been in, let's just say, not great form in Austria. Typically, they dominate and run through everybody, but their underlying numbers in Austria are not as good as they have been in years past. So there's just a pass for me at this point. It's just, I think it's one of the easier passes on the board.
I would say the same about Benfica and Inter. I think I'd want to bet Inter here, but I don't really have much of an interest. Benfica plus 160, Inter plus 170. The draw is plus 240. Anthony, you're the only one with a play here, so you can wrap up our marathon episode on Champions League match week 5.
Yeah. What's the European equivalent of 1-2-3 Cancun? Is it 1-2-3 Santorini?
What is it? Ibiza.
Well, when you live in,
then for them it'll be exactly they'll want to go to
Portugal.
They'll want to go to
sick location to be anywhere.
The Amalfi Coast maybe.
Yeah. Well, that was Benfica against Sociedad.
Canary Islands to visit Las Palmas.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They had one of the worst efforts I've ever seen in the Champions League from a good team in their road match at Sociedad. It was stunning. Just no defense. So how is this total 2.5 minus 110? Because Inter might rotate. They could sit Thuram. They could sit Martinez. They could go with the ghost of Alexis Sanchez. But the close on the first match was 2.5 over minus 170. And I thought that was a little high. But minus 110? Benfica doesn't play any defense. They're taking all kinds of chances. They still can score a little. I love the over 2.5 here. I think it's way too low. So yeah, minus 110 over. I think we talked about this at the end of the season. Totals tend to get pushed up in the market because teams defend less when there's low stakes. I mean, Benfica didn't give a shit last round. They're not going to give a shit now either. So I like this over.
All right, that'll do it for match week 5, the penultimate match week of the Champions League group stage matches. For BJ Cunningham, Anthony DeBundo, and our producer Noah, I'm Michael Leboff. Thank you for listening to Wondergoal. We will see you again Thursday morning to talk more about the Premier League, point deductions, and maybe we'll find another motivational spot of the year for you to lose on. Until then, best of luck with all your bets.